A tomb hidden for 12,000 years was just unlocked, and what they found inside changes everything we thought we knew about history. They didn't expect to find anything. Just a routine skim beneath the sands near Abydos, one of Egypt's most sacred ancient cities. A team of archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar hoped for traces of collapsed tombs or forgotten storehouses, but what they found shocked them. Beneath the Temple of Seti, hidden deep underground, was something massive. Not just a burial chamber, not just artifacts. This was a sealed vault, enclosed in rock that hadn't been disturbed for what some estimate could be over 12,000 years. Wait, minus 12,000? That's long before the pharaohs ruled, before the pyramids were even imagined. If that's true, it would rewrite everything we know about ancient civilization in Egypt. The entrance was smooth, angular, unlike the crude tomb shafts found in the Valley of the Kings, and what made it even more bizarre, the interior wasn't decorated with hieroglyphs, no carvings, no prayers to the gods, just silence and stone. The first object inside, a massive cube of black granite, polished to a mirror shine, carved with perfect 90 angles and embedded with what appeared to be a type of metallic inlay, a metal no one could identify. One expert whispered, "This doesn't belong here." Another said, "This looks more like it was engineered, not carved." What was this cube? Was it a sarcophagus? A machine? A symbol? One physicist on the team pointed out that granite is loaded with quartz, a material that generates an electric charge when placed under pressure. This thing wasn't just decorative, it could have been functional. As days went on, they unearthed more objects, delicate glass tubes, lenses that could magnify like modern microscopes, and a small statue shaped like a bird, but with aerodynamically precise wings. One researcher laughed and said, "That's not a bird, that's a prototype for flight." Was it just imagination? Or had they found something far more advanced than ancient texts ever described? But the most shocking find, a slab covered in inscriptions, not in hieroglyphs, but in an unknown script, circular, geometric, alien in design. Some symbols even looked like binary code. A linguist brought in to analyze the markings concluded, this isn't language the way we understand it. It's more like data. At this point, the team realized something horrifying. They weren't just inside an ancient vault. They were standing in the middle of a secret older than Egypt itself. And that's when the power went out. Cameras died. GPS signals were jammed. For 5 full minutes, the team lost all contact with the outside world. When systems came back online, their instruments had been wiped clean. Some say it was just a glitch, others believe the vault didn't want to be recorded still. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Strange electromagnetic interference has been reported in other ancient sites. 2. The Serapeum of Saqqara, the Assyrian of Abydos, and deep within the Great Pyramid itself. Could these places be connected? Could it all trace back to something? Before the pharaohs, a civilization lost a history, but leaving behind artifacts we can't explain? And if so, what happened to them? What wiped them out? Or worse, what did they leave behind? Waiting to be uncovered. Let's go deeper. The lost civilization before Egypt, and their forgotten technology. The ancient Egyptians called Abydos the gateway to the afterlife. But what if they weren't talking about death, but about something older? Something left behind by those who came before? New satellite data of the region revealed straight lines, massive, hidden roads buried under the sands, pointing to unknown locations miles away from any known tombs or cities. Some of these roads aligned with celestial constellations, and others led nowhere except to more buried chambers. Inside one of them, a circular chamber was discovered, perfectly smooth, as if laser cut, no chisel marks, no tool impressions. The walls were made of a material resembling basalt, but fused at such a high temperature it had become vitrified, glass-like. That's not something ancient stonemasons could do, even today. It would require industrial-level heat, and in the center of the room, another machine-like object. This one resembled a table, or maybe a console, with grooves, inlets, panels. One engineer remarked, "This looks more like an interface, like a control panel." But to what? We've already seen other ancient anomalies that defy their time. The Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old computer. The Baghdad battery, which produced electricity into 100 BCE Heron's hydraulic temple doors. Working automatically in the 1st century, maybe ancient people did have access to technology. But what if it wasn't invented by them? What if it was inherited? There are myths across the world about sky beings or gods who taught humanity the arts of construction, astronomy, and mathematics. The Egyptians spoke of Thoth, a being with the head of an ibis, who brought writing and science. Could Thoth have been one of them? And then there's the strange consistency across global ancient structures, the precision-cut stones of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, the massive trilithons at Baalbek, Lebanon, the perfectly balanced statues of Easter Island. The alignment of Stonehenge with Solstice, they all share one thing: astronomical precision and impossible engineering. Even in Egypt, the Great Pyramid is aligned within 3/60th of a degree to true north. How? Not with ropes and sightlines. That kind of alignment requires knowledge of the Earth's curvature and the star's dot. It's as if these ancient builders understood the world as a system. But then, something happened. Something that brought it all to an end. Many researchers point to a cataclysm, a sudden event that wiped out this advanced civilization and buried their knowledge under time and sand. Some believe it was a pole shift, an abrupt movement of Earth's crust. Others blame a massive solar flare or a comet impact, like what some say caused the Younger Dryas extinction. But here's the thing: what if some of this knowledge survived, hidden in tombs, locked in vaults like Abydos, preserved, waiting for us to find it? And what if what we've just discovered is only the beginning? Asterisk, the vault's warning energy systems, Apis bulls, an ancient power bank inside the newly uncovered Abydos vault. Researchers noticed something odd. All around the central granite cube were thin grooves in the floor, almost like channels. When they traced them, they led to small basins embedded in the ground, filled with what appeared to be ancient resin or chemical residue. One chemist made a jaw-dropping suggestion. This could have been part of an energy transfer system. He wasn't alone. Similar systems were theorized in the Serapeum of Saqqara, an underground labyrinth containing 24 massive granite sarcophagi, each weighing over 70 tons, carved with incredible precision. Officially, they were tombs for the sacred Apis bulls, revered in Egyptian religion. But here's the strange part: the boxes are way too large for even the biggest bull. They're also built from Aswan granite, sourced hundreds of miles away. Transporting them into tight tunnels with no room for maneuvering? Nearly impossible, unless you had advanced knowledge of logistics and force distribution. And then there's the geometry. These sarcophagi were so precisely made that they are airtight, precision to the thousandth of an inch. Engineers today admit that reproducing that work with modern tools would be incredibly expensive. So what were they really for? One theory says they were pressure vessels, sealed chambers for chemical or biological reactions. Others claim they were part of a piezoelectric system, using quartz-rich granite to generate electricity under pressure. When you mix all these clues, the sealed granite cubes, electromagnetic interference, and strange crystalline residue, a chilling hypothesis emerges. These weren't tombs, they were machines. And if the Serapeum was an energy facility, the newly uncovered Abydos vault may have been its control room. Now think about this. In 2013, a CIA declassified document called The Adam and Eve Story was released to the public. After being kept secret for decades, the author, Jan Thomas, claimed that Earth goes through cyclical cataclysms every 12,000 years due to pole shifts, triggered by internal pressures in Earth's core. He described crustal displacement so violent that entire continents rise and sink in a matter of hours, flooding coastlines, triggering earthquakes, and wiping civilizations from the map. Sound like science fiction? Well, scientists did find whale bones on mountaintops in the Andes and the Himalayas, proof that something massive once lifted the seafloor thousands of feet into the air. And then there are the frozen mammoths, found with food still in their mouths, as if they were flash frozen mid-bite. No slow freeze could do that. Only a sudden environmental catastrophe. What if the ancient builders knew this cycle was coming? What if their energy systems weren't just for lighting temples or powering machines, but were part of a warning system, or worse, an intervention device, something meant to protect Earth or reset it? And if we've only just begun to unlock these systems, are we too late? Asterisk, the final clue. Could the ancients return? Let's go back to Easter Island, a remote speck in the Pacific, home to the mysterious Moai statues. We've all seen them, stone heads with blank gazes, lined up like soldiers. But they're not just heads, most are full bodies buried over time. And recently, archaeologists discovered something incredible. Glyphs carved into their backs, symbols not found anywhere else. One of them resembles the symbol found in the Abydos vault. a repeating loop like a self-contained circuit. Coincidence or connection? Ancient legends across Polynesia speak of a sunken continent, Mu, a land swallowed by the sea after a great disaster. Some believe Easter Island is all that remains of it, and just like Atlantis, it disappeared suddenly, just like the civilizations described by Chan Thomas. Now let's talk about something even more modern. In Iraq, when water levels dropped in 2018 due to drought, a city suddenly emerged from the Tigris River, Zakiku, once part of the Mitanni Empire. Buildings perfectly preserved underwater for over 3,000 years. Among the ruins, clay tablets, describing star patterns, rituals, and trade with the Watchers of the Heavens. Who were the Watchers, and why were they considered allies, not gods? In Saudi Arabia, recent aerial surveys uncovered a massive Neolithic city, over 8,000 years old, complete with irrigation systems, temples, and vast water reservoirs. Even in the Doggerland region beneath the North Sea, fishermen found tools, bones, and even footprints. Remnants of a lost prehistoric world die, it seems, every year. The past pushes back. New discoveries rise from the sands, from the seas, from our forgotten memory. And each one tells us the same thing. We weren't the first. Someone came before. They built. They warned us. And then they vanished. But maybe, just maybe, they left. More than machines and stone, maybe they left us a test. Can we decipher it in time? Because if the cataclysmic cycle truly repeats every 12,000 years, and if the last one happened roughly 11,600 years ago, then the clock is ticking. And the Vault of Abydos? It may not be a tomb at all, it might be a message, a countdown, a map, and we're just beginning to understand where it leads.